All right, nerds. We're finally here. Opal Scorpion 2.1 patch notes. And this is the overview. We are going to go line by line through the changes. I'm going to spend more time on some things, less time on others, based on what I think is relevant. So starting with the overview, we get 5 new maps, some multiplayer balance changes, new cosmetics, and additional gameplay and quality of life improvements. So all good stuff, I think. All additive. If you're new to the game, I think now is a good time to come in. They address some really fundamental like game system issues in this patch. And I think it's getting closer. I mean, it is with every patch. It's feeling closer to what it should be. And this was a big step in that direction, I think. Lots of things that I think are contentious that they did not touch that I think should have been touched, or changes that they made that I don't completely agree with, but we're just going to ride the whole thing out and go line by line. So starting with new cosmetics, we've got 4 new cosmetic sets as part of this patch. Not going to lie, I'm happy with all of these packs. I think they're all nice. I'll probably buy all of them except the Desert Rose because just personal preference. I didn't really like this one, so I probably won't buy it. But the other ones I'll definitely buy. I was hoping for cosmetics for more units, like cosmetics for call-in units, and then maybe like some more cosmetics. I don't know. Like one pack is great, but I really thought like maybe we would get more in various calibers. So since that's not the case, I mean, hope they continue to add to this. I think it's a good opportunity. Offering the Night Fighters packs, that was an easy win for them to do. Some people will pay for these, which will be nice for them as well. So overall, you know, cosmetic stuff is good. New maps, Tuscan Vineyards. I've played some custom games on Tuscan Vineyards. This is a K-Pen classic. It's a very, very nice map. I think it'll make a nice addition to the pool. As well as these 2 new ones. Love to see new 2v2 maps in the pool as well. I know Lorraine is a remake from a COH3 map. And El Alamein is a map that I think a lot of people probably would have expected to see in this game, but isn't making it in until now. So expecting this map to be very open. Probably some big tank battles happening on this map. I haven't had a good look at it yet, but looking forward to doing that. And then there's a new 3v3 map in there. And then, of course, the classic Red Ball Express 4v4 map. I'm sure a lot of COH2 players will be excited. Well, COH1 and COH2 players will be excited to see this one. Honestly, I never understood what all the hype was about. But moving along. Quality of life improvements. So they've addressed several bug fixes and improvements across multiplayer maps thanks to the feedback on the official Discord. So what maps did they touch? Pacino Stalemate. There was a very minor territory adjustment, ensuring the southern fuel points fairly connect only with their neighboring fuel point. I think, where is this? Ensuring the fuel points fairly connect only with the neighboring fuel point. I don't know what that means. We'll have to see. I'm excited about this one. I saw this one when I was working today. So they adjusted the plus 10 fuel points within the contestable areas to be plus 8 to reduce the harsh swing of fuel income when capturing the majority of territory points. This should be really interesting. And I actually think I would like to see more usage of these plus 8 fuel points instead of plus 10. Because right now, I mean, you guys have heard me talk about the economy in the game feeling very swingy compared to previous titles because of the values of some of these points. Excuse me. And I think this could probably be used more prevalently in other maps as well. Benghazi adjusted some barbed wire on the map. Gothic Line, looks like there were some issues with the spawn areas in one of them. McDonough Summit. Territory cleanup, some cover rebalancing, especially around the map center. That's probably a good thing. Oasis Depot, central fuel points. An issue with the central fuel points have been fixed. Excuse me. It was previously possible to gain income even if the central island was cut off from the HQ sector. I didn't know that. That's funny. And then Sioux Stronghold. Cool. Localization for Ukrainian and Russian. That's neat. Okay, now we're in the multiplayer changes. This is the sauce, honestly. I should have just zoomed right here because this is what people care about. At least this is what people care about when they listen to me yap. So, Breach has been, as for all intents and purposes, Breach has been fixed. This ability was a joke. It was probably the laughing stock of this game in terms of mechanics, and it has been fixed. It's much faster now. It's much more accessible. It's much more usable. It's much more consistent in the threat that it poses. And it's pretty much always, like, I think a good idea as far as I can tell. But, I mean, you do still have to pay for it. It's not free. There were some units that got it for free, and that's now been standardized. But, like, when clearing out a building, this is probably the clear answer. So, I'm excited. I'm excited to use this breach ability. I think it'll actually see some great usage in play, especially in urban areas of maps. So yeah, really happy about this change overall. Towing improvements, I love to see this. I think, so I have a thought about how towing needs to be made more accessible for players, and I was thinking about how to do that. This is great. Like all this stuff that they had talked about, you know, causing weapons to rotate late. What is this? So towing has been given several major improvements, increasing responsiveness and reducing delays. It should be faster in most cases, and many common delays and bugs have been fixed. So we've got fixed multiple issues causing team weapons to rotate too late, fixed multiple issues causing vehicle positions to change when told to tow the team weapon already within range. Saw that a lot. Improve logic and speed at which team weapons rotate to hitch onto towing vehicle, and remove delays caused by waiting for crew entities to get in after the hold towing was already completed, and then fixed multiple towing related issues that could cause crashes. I never saw this, so that's interesting. I think one more quality of life improvement that I would like to see for towing is when you issue a towing command, just have the towing vehicle reverse up to the weapon. Have that be the default command. Don't make the player, you know, reverse up to the weapon, then issue the tow command so that it hitches properly. Just have, when you issue a tow command, the vehicle should just default to reversing toward the team weapon. I think that is the most obvious answer to making this very easy to use and accessible. So, yeah, I think like this will make a huge difference in the usability of towing, and if you add what I suggested on top of that, I think it'll be like in a perfect state. Because right now towing is tough to use, is very punishing, especially at high levels, because you lose valuable seconds, which can mean the difference between losing your team weapon completely and escaping unscathed. Even if you are hyper responsive, a lot of these issues that are just not predictable would make it too punishing to use. And so a lot of people were avoiding using towing and towed team weapons. And hopefully this addresses that to some degree. Territory and victory point vision changes. I think a lot of people are going to gloss over this and not have a second thought about it, but I actually think this is one of the most dramatic system changes that we're seeing within this patch. Sorry, I minimized it. So they're reducing the vision radius to pretty much nothing, which means that you will no longer be able to see what your opponent is decapturing friendly territory with, unless you have direct vision of those units. And this has a lot of implications for things like machine guns, which previously could have been pretty easily like attack move from max range into defending territory points. Led to a lot of issues with like self-spotting or self-spotting units that were going to capture territory points for team weapons and other things. Also just passive scouting in the fog of war. It was pretty egregious, and it provided a lot of information, and now all of that is effectively gone. You effectively now have to scout every single position of your own territory that you're counter attacking, and this also applies to your opponents. So vision is going to be much harder to access Like, it's not going to be as accessible for friendly territory. And that just means that people are going to have to be a little bit more careful about when they're making moves, because they're not going to be able to see what their opponent is necessarily doing on the territory point that they're attacking. So this is a significant change, and I think has a lot of implications. I'm really interested to see how this pans out, especially considering I know later on there's going to come some abilities that give vision to territory points that are going to become much more powerful as a result. Moving on, we've got non-lethal smoke and flare abilities from vehicles and artillery units. We've made improvements to several non-lethal weapons to bypass a weapon's reload time. These changes are meant to make it easier to deploy smoke screens during combat when units have already fired a shot or have a reload in cycle. Can now skip any ongoing reload sequence to fire immediately. Weapons that have fired will still remember their reload time when they swap back to the original weapon. Example, the M24 Chaffee fires the main gun, fires smoke shot via ability, then retains the reload time of the main gun when the weapon is swapped to smoke. So if I'm understanding how this is phrased correctly, it means that smoke cooldown or smoke firing is going to operate on a completely separate cooldown from standard shells. And I think the effort here is to make it more accessible for players to use and more responsive. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. Like, while I'm happy that it's going to be more responsive, I think this will be very easily abused by players that are good with their micro, because you'll be able to just like fire a regular shell, switch to smoke really quickly, fire one smoke shell, and then switch back to main barrage or something. And it will all happen within the same kind of time frame and feel very weird on the receiving end. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I am for the changes that come later on to projectiles and mortars, and how that's going to apply to smoke. This I don't really know how I feel about yet. Kind of have mixed feelings about it, but we'll have to play with it and see how it feels. That's my concern, though, when I look at this, is like, it seems to me like smoke's going to be spammable on top of already like decent DPS weapons, especially with all the indirect changes this patch. And so I think it's going to make the use of smoke almost a little bit too easy, and you're not going to have to think too much about like, well, do I want to fire a main round or do I want to fire smoke? You can kind of have both with this, it sounds like, but that's only if I'm understanding this correctly, so we'll have to see. Friendly fire. Oh my god, it's about time. Friendly fire, dude. Okay, so currently, players can call in artillery or throw grenades on top of their own units and deal significantly reduced damage to themselves, but full damage to the enemy. This caused situations where dropping a grenade or artillery on top of yourself was a way to win an engagement. We have adjusted how friendly fire interacts with a player's own units and weapons. Certain abilities and weapons will now deal full friendly fire damage to their owner's forces, forcing players to be more careful with where they target their abilities. This does not impact friendly fire damage against allies, which is still reduced. I don't know how they did this, but it's great news from my perspective. This was like one of the de facto tactics to winning engagements, especially with shock units at short range, was like close the gap, then just drop a grenade at your feet. And it would always deal heavy damage to the enemy and be more difficult to respond to because the travel time on the grenade was the real kicker of how long it would take to get to the damage stage. You guys will probably notice, if you throw a grenade from far away, your opponent has a lot more time to react because of the travel time of the grenade when it's in the air, right? So it's flying, it's flying over, and then it's flying, and then it lands on the ground, then it has a short timer and it blows up, right? When you throw a grenade at your feet, it's like, it flies for this long, right? And then it just hits the ground and blows up. So it's much harder to dodge. And because there was very little friendly damage, it was like you could just throw grenades at your feet all the time and make it super easy to deal a lot of damage to your opponent's units and take very little damage yourself. This also applied to artillery, to mortar barrages, off-map damaging abilities. So the fact that they're bringing friendly fire to all of these without penalizing teammates, right? So you can't grief your teammates with this stuff. That is great. I can imagine that must have been a technical challenge, but it's great to see that they've done it. And I think this is going to be really healthy for the behavior of how people choose to use artillery and grenades. So happy about that. Capture behavior. So to simplify this, basically what this means is that as long as your units are in a territory point, they will stick to whatever specific movement commands you have issued to finish a territory capture and then pivot to another order following that. So what that looks like is, I'll explain it this way, okay? Say you're walking a squad to a point and you right click the point and then you shift click another point. By default, the squad will move to whatever position that you've right clicked, the territory. They'll just walk to the center of it. They'll capture it and then they'll go to the next one. Now I can issue a command for them to take a specific position or take specific cover and then shift click the capture order onto the next territory point, and they will adhere to their original position that I selected for them, which is great news. I think it's going to make it like much more easy to issue shift capture orders with these changes. So you can properly queue up like the defensive position or position that you want a squad to take while they're capturing, and then they'll move on to the next position. So all of that to say, like, we'll summarize it in the points here, right? So it says, we have some adjustments to capture behavior to make it easier to retain cover positions or current position if they're already capturing, and units will be less likely to pile up directly on the point. Instead, opting to stop once they're within a certain distance of the capture point. When units are given a capture command and are not on a capture point, squad entities no longer stack on the center of the capture point with direct capture commands. Squads will move to the center of the point, favoring the side they come from. Squads no longer move to the capture points if they are issued a capture command in the zone of control that they are already capturing. So they no longer move if I issue a capture command and I'm already in the territory point. That is great. That's a good change. This allows users to leverage desirable cover in or near capture points, as units now retain cover positions from queued capture commands. If a queued order was issued, they will hold the position, capture, and move to the next order. So, long-winded way of saying, much more predictable, I guess, like user-friendly behavior within the context of capture points. This is a good thing. Emplacement. I'm so stoked about this, dude. I have felt like artillery, like the static artillery placements have been so bad for so long. Not because of their performance and their DPS and like all that stuff, just because of how easy they are to take out with counter barraging. And from my perspective, it seems like now that is not going to be as much of an issue. You stack this on top of another update that's coming later to SPG type artillery, which we'll talk about. And I actually think artillery emplacements are going to be very, very strong on this patch as indirect choices and options. So static artillery emplacements are too vulnerable to mobile artillery units that can move away after delivering a barrage, while also being susceptible to off-maps and enemy assaults. Due to these issues, we're raising the resilience of artillery emplacements against on-field artillery. These changes, combined with the reduced health of mobile artillery, are to allow static artillery units to better absorb and counter on-field artillery barrages, while remaining vulnerable to threats like direct attacks and off-maps. Great change. Excellent. So, rubber meets the road. Artillery emplacements now take 50% less damage from on-field medium, heavy, and rocket artillery. Was previously 25%. Does not impact resistance against off-maps. So, they'll be more durable against on-the-field artillery, but the same durability against direct attacks, so like tanks, that kind of thing, and or off-maps, which will be able to take them out as well. Now, grenades. This was a major change that I think a lot of people have been talking about for a very long time. So I'm not going to go through all of the specific changes of every single grenade. I'm going to highlight a couple of things and talk about the sentiment behind the grenade changes. A lot of people felt like grenades were underwhelming, and not all grenades, just the standard ones. The bundle grenades, the gammon bombs, they feel fine. They feel very strong. They feel very good. But the standard grenades, the rifle grenades, I mean, with the exception of the incendiary ones, the German stick grenades especially, and then the Mark II frag grenades, Mills bombs, and cooked variants, they all felt pretty inconsistent and bad to use. Now, what all of these changes essentially mean is they standardized the damage of all of the grenades. They increased the effective damaging radius, or the kill radius, of a lot of grenades. So you'll find that now grenades are a lot more scary than they were last patch. They're a lot more scary. The damage on them is still sort of concentrated. Like, you can dodge them, but you cannot safely eat grenade damage on this patch like you could last patch. And I think this is going to have major implications for squads in cover, for machine gun teams, all that stuff. And I think is a great change for grenades. The most significant change for, I just wanted to highlight specifically rifle grenades, because they are seeing a cost increase. They are seeing an area of effect reduction, but they will deal more damage. And they have a pretty high kill radius. So these grenades are going to be very lethal to units that are caught within the blast, but they will be possible to almost dodge the damage completely, which I think is good. It's a good design for this grenade. I'm a little afraid of how this is going to go and partner, especially with like incendiary grenades from Canadian Battle Group, but that's a concern for a later time. Fundamentally, what we want to highlight here is that grenades are just all around much more effective than they were last patch. So that's your key takeaway here. Use grenades more, use them often. If you're getting hit by a grenade, you have to be much more careful. If you're not dodging the grenade, you should probably retreat, unlike this patch where it's like it would deal 50% of your squad's HP, something like that. Those instances are going to be much less common. And so, you know, that's kind of where we are now. Okay, stun grenades. So always deal 40 damage with no drop off. So 40 damage to any unit affected. That kind of makes sense to me. Red phosphorus or white phosphorus always deal 30 damage with no damage drop off. And it had an increase in blast radius, which I think is interesting. It'll probably make these much more effective at flushing units out as well. Okay, moving on to light mortars and light infantry artillery. This is a lot of words. Basically what they're getting at is it all comes down to time to damage, or time on target for these light artillery pieces. They have effectively standardized the projectile arrival time regardless of the distance of the mortar to its target. So before, if your mortar or your light artillery gun was a little bit closer to target, you could actually like speed up the time it would take between firing the shell and the shell landing in your opponent's units. Now it's standardized, so it doesn't matter what range you're at, the shell will always land on target at the same time. What this looks like in game is a lot more, what would it be? Speed and consistency from your light artillery units, which I think is great, because there was a lot of these units that were feeling really underwhelming, especially like the light infantry artillery, the pack howitzer, the League, the 3-inch heavy mortar felt really bad to use because it was so difficult to get them on target quickly. And some of the mortars, like, you know, the American mortar was probably the standout, but the other mortars did not feel great to use. The 81 millimeter, the 8 centimeter, the half-track mortar, all did not feel really great to use. And so hopefully the responsiveness will really help with their usability and not feel like such a bad opportunity cost, especially in like 1v1s. So A lot more speed and consistency from the projectiles that we're going to see from light mortars and artillery. Camouflage. Dramatic changes to camouflage, dude. Dramatic changes. And long overdue, I think. A lot of people would agree. So, fundamentally, what they're doing to camouflage is they're reducing the detection range of standard units. Just slightly. Not by a lot, just slightly. It goes from 12.5 to 10 now. So it's about a 20% difference, about 25% actually, reduction in detection range. This is going to be really beneficial for short range units, stealth units like commandos. Fallschirmjägers will be able to take advantage of this. The mechanized STG STOS will be able to take advantage of this. And units like assault grenadiers and other units for the DAC espionage battle group. Also AT guns. You know, you'll be able to creep up some camo AT guns a lot better. The German machine guns with the camo upgrade, they will be able to creep around a lot better as well. But there's going to make some differences to especially espionage battle group with how camo is used. So starting with the delay for elite camo, not all units have elite camo. I think commandos, snipers, what else? Maybe the espionage units with the new effect will have elite camo. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to dig in and play some games to see. Or maybe there will be something later in the patch notes. And then we've got the camouflage detection range for all regular units. We knew about this. Reticule added for stealth camouflage passives, toggle ability to display a rough estimate of when the unit gets detected by non-detector units from the center of the squad. So this will give you what would it be? A UI insight to how close you are to getting detected. So it's not perfect, but it's going to give you an idea of how close you can get to your opponent before you're going to get detected. Then you can see when units leave cover, their camouflage UI indicator counts down. So now it's going to be more readable on how can I effectively dart from cover to cover while maintaining my camouflage. Okay? This is going to make a big difference as well. In the usability of it, right? It's going to be much more accessible to the players. It's not going to be based on like, you know, what players have nerded out and figured out the exact time that they can spend dodging between cover. Now you'll actually be able to see it in the UI, which is great. And also, we're seeing German AT guns now get the first strike the moment they enter camouflage. I don't know if this is a good idea. I actually don't think this is a good idea. I think this can be very easily abused. I'll give you an example. I can walk my packs out of camouflage up a road to maximize their mobility. And then as they are acquiring the target, I can turn the camo on, which means they're going to get the first strike bonus, which gives them penetration, which gives them damage, and it's guaranteed. Before, I had to deliberately set up my AT gun to get the bonus and had to wait a little bit. So I could understand something like maybe reducing the amount of time it would take for the bonus to trigger, but I really don't know if giving it to the units immediately is a good idea. So we'll have to see how this feels. We'll talk about the stealth changes to espionage for DAC as we get there. Bunkers and fighting positions. I think this is a great quality of life upgrade. I really love this. And I think it's going to make coastal much more interesting. I think it's going to make a lot of defenses much more interesting. But here you have the details, right? So upgraded bunkers and fighting positions will retain their garrison feature to give units more viable positions to fight from. Players did not keep unupgraded or fighting positions around as it was more useful to upgrade them in the long run. This means that they can be garrisoned by infantry even in their upgraded forms. So I can plug a coastal squad into a machine gun bunker, which is pretty cool because I can kind of protect the flanks, I can fight from inside, and I still get the benefits of the machine gun. Does this apply to machine gun teams? Like, can I put two machine guns in the same bunker? I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that. Would like to see. We'll see. And what else have we got here? Provides garrison cover combat bonuses for all variants. Okay. Oh, okay. So it's just saying that basically the bunkers act as garrisons, which makes sense. I think this is a cool quality of life upgrade. I like it. I think it's a good idea. And I'm happy to see it in the game. So, very cool. What else have we got? Minesweeping. Cool. This is a different... I like this, actually. So they're increasing the viability and the scaling of utility-based units for minesweeping. Now, the main ways to get veterancy on your engineer units previously were basically disarming... sorry, that's the new thing, disarming mines. Setting mines, so dealing damage by using mines, or fighting enemies. Which is harder to do with a sweeper squad. But now they'll be able to get XP by sweeping mines, which is very cool. So they're going to be able to scale up a lot faster, much like the Flamer Engineers were. That was kind of the trade-off, is like Flamer Engineer was pretty much always better in combat, and so they would vet up faster. But now you'll kind of be able to keep up your pacing along with the... sorry, I zoomed ahead here because I got lost. There we go. You'll kind of be able to keep up your pacing with your other engineer squad as long as you're continuously sweeping mines, which is cool. Signal detection. So 2-to-1 scout car, 2x4 artillery tractor, and 4x4 truck. These are known as the map hack units by the community. And a lot of people found these very frustrating because it effectively gives you a lot of information in a very large radius, and there was no counterplay to these previously. Now they're introducing some counterplay, which I think is a great idea. So they are turning signal detection into an ability on all these units. Players can turn the signal detection ability off to prevent their units from revealing themselves. Signal detection now reveals the user of the ability for 5 seconds every 5 seconds. Signal detection is now a toggle ability for these units, and recon detection icons have been updated to a new shade and style that better fits with the game. Cool. Thematic stuff. We love that. Aesthetic sounds good. Rec changes. I'm so excited about this, dude. I think... I mean, I say that I'm excited about it, but I know that there's going to be some cheese that's going to frustrate the heck out of me as I play against it. But there are some implications to these rec changes that excite me a lot. So let's go into it. So fundamentally, the change here is wrecks could be too easily destroyed by other vehicles crushing them. This meant killing the lead vehicle in a tank assault did little to slow them down. And it also meant that wrecks that players wanted to salvage or recover could accidentally be destroyed by most mid-late game vehicles. Most wrecks will now require one level higher to be crushed. So this means ultralight vehicles now require light vehicles or higher to be crushed and cannot be crushed by other ultralight vehicles. Medium vehicle wrecks now require heavy vehicles to be crushed and can no longer be crushed by medium vehicles. And heavy vehicle wrecks are immune to being crushed by all sources. So what does this mean? There's a couple implications. One, when you are pushing in with tanks or being pushed by tanks, killing the lead tank has much more significant implications on how that push's momentum will continue compared to before. So before, if I had like a ball of Crusaders and the lead tank died, it didn't matter because my other tanks would just drive right through it and crush the wreck and continue their pursuit, right? Now, if I kill the lead tank in a Crusader charge, it might cause a traffic jam for all of the other tanks that are behind it. And that's going to give me as the defender the flexibility to adapt more quickly or reposition as my opponent now has to deal with that wreck in their way, right? I love this. I think this is going to introduce a very interesting dynamic to how players distribute and position their vehicles, especially when they're attacking. You have to be very thoughtful now about how close together your vehicles are when you're making attacks, because if you lose your lead vehicle and all your other vehicles get stuck behind, then you're gonna have some major problems in terms of trying to stay on target. So that's just, I'm projecting, you know, I don't know this for sure, but it seems to me like this is going to have some implication on vehicle pushes, which is exciting. And that salvaging will be much more accessible now to all factions that have it. And I say all factions that have it because UKF does not have it. And if I recall correctly, Wehrmacht does not have it either. Just DAC and US. Haha. So cool, good stuff as far as salvaging goes, and the rec changes I think I'm happy about as well. GRB grenade launcher. My goodness, I've seen lots of complaints about these on the forums, on Reddit, on the Discord. People are really struggling with the GRB. I think the combination of the stealth nerf plus this is going to be really nice. So the GRB grenade launcher anti-garrison damage is being reduced. This is primarily focused on reducing splash damage applied to other models in the building while keeping its damage against high single entity inside the garrison. Anti-garrison damage bonus decreased from 100% to 50%. So your units in buildings are not going to get chunked as badly by the GRBs, which is great. I also thought I saw something later on for the grenade launcher as well, like something about the smoke getting removed, but maybe I'm forgetting. Towed and fixed artillery emplacements. So the command point cost of certain fixed or towed artillery is being reduced to allow them to come online sooner and see more play. BL 5.5 command point cost reduced from 2 to 1. Obice reduced from 5 to 4. That is the coastal artillery. And this is the DAC towed Canone. I'm actually stoked about this one because the medical truck and Canone combo is a really nice thing to bring out. And a lot of games I found myself like delaying my medical truck so that I could just call this in instead. And now this will be much easier to execute. So maybe there will be a Italian defensive battle group video coming in the future. We'll see. Snipers, build time reduced. Cool. Glad to see that's the only note for snipers, honestly. I hate snipers. I don't think they belong in the game. So I'm really glad to see that that's the only change to snipers. Haha. Distribute medical supplies. Nice quality of life change. So 250 carrier and dingo, this quality of life. So it now functions even if the vehicle is moving, similar to those used by the Grenadier Squad. This is a great quality of life change. It is going to make the medical kits much more usable and accessible, and you'll be able to distribute your medical supplies while driving around the map, which is great. So good quality of life improvement. Artillery siphon, intel, disruption beacons, and Luftwaffe relay no longer remain spotted in the fog of war and minimap once discovered and the enemy loses vision. I actually like this change a lot. It means that you have to be really deliberate about spotting them out and remembering where they are, so that you can hit them with indirect or follow up with an attack or something like that. It was pretty easy to just like use a flare to spot these once, and then you could kind of just pick them off from very, very far away. Now you have to be more deliberate about taking these out. So overall, great change. Love that. Mobile AT guns. Small boost to AT guns to make their Vet 3 feel more powerful. They're getting more rate of fire bonus at Vet 3 from 30 to 35%. Good change. I would like to see more of this unit distinction stuff at Vet 3. And I think this is a good change. All right. So now we're getting into U.S. forces. U.S. forces probably saw the most dramatic and significant tech, should we call it tech changes? Tech and like unit accessibility changes. They also saw some like rework of the support centers to an extent. Yeah, a lot changed with U.S. forces, so we'll talk about it all here. So starting with the captain retinue. Basically, they are making the captain available for purchase for all support centers. This is a fantastic change, dude. I have been saying that part of the greatest barrier to going for a support center that is not infantry support center is a lack of access to the captain, because the captain is so crucially important for U.S. infantry play that I've said before, like, it's the best 150 manpower that you can spend. for this faction. The utility that you get, the abilities, the experience sharing, the tempo, all so good. So how this is going to work is the captain will still come for free with the infantry support center when you build it. But if you build mechanized or air support center, you will now be able to build the captain from your headquarters, which is fantastic. So that means you can better support, you know, if you're playing rifleman or infantry heavy, even if you're playing with mechanized or air support center, you still have access to the captain, which is awesome. Air support center, they're trying to make some effort to make air support center a little bit more viable and give it some of the same tempo bonuses that the other support centers have. Like mechanized support center comes with the free repairs. The infantry support center comes with the captain. The air support center is now getting access to the first 2 strafing runs that it gets for free. This will make for, like, I think we'll see more players experimenting with this, because the main complaint about these is that the munitions cost is quite expensive, and being able to use the first, I mean, that's, what is that actually? That's, I think, 120 munitions if you use both of these, that you now get to save for other things that are going to be more important in the early game, like grenades, mines, weapons, what have you. Now you'll have access to these abilities for free, and that will give you a window to do things like research the cost reducing tech that's going to make the munitions cost all of these abilities cheaper. All good stuff. So really happy about this. I think this should be interesting. We'll see more air support center play as a result of it. Designate forward repair station. So it's had its healing speed increased to allow vehicles to get back into the fight faster. So now the repair rate has been increased from 8 per second to 12. And it can also now repair structures. This should be interesting because it means that you can put, like, things like a howitzer next to your repair center, which is going to be really nice for them, being able to, like, fix up, repair vehicles, repair structures that are nearby. And the repair rate now makes it so that it actually repairs faster than an engineer, which is crazy for tempo. So this is going to be a very powerful ability now. And it looks like, yeah, here we go. Rapid repairs is now going to cause the forward repair station to generate a repair aura within 25 range. Engineers on the point become visual indicators, and the previous effect is removed. What that means is that effectively these turn into the equivalent of the repair bunker for the Wehrmacht, or the forward repair assembly for the British forces. So this is major. This is a major boost and bonus to the rapid repairs ability. And I think this is going to make the US a late game powerhouse with MSC and armor play, especially with the change that I'm so excited to talk about, which is coming up. So great change overall. Really happy about that. Browning automatic rifles will now be available from the barracks without requiring a support center. So now it's a global upgrade, no longer requires a support center, and a munitions-based upgrade per squad is locked behind any support center before being purchased. So you'll be able to get the first bar, but you won't be able to buy the second one until you pick your support center. Interesting change. I don't know if interesting is the right word, honestly. I kind of feel like this is a trap to try to make US rifle play more appealing for players. And I just don't think this was the right note. I don't think this was the right thing for them to focus on. What I would have preferred to see was maybe a slight bonus to the received accuracy that riflemen get at Vet 1, or a reduction in their veterancy requirements while peeling off the XP bonuses that the captain give. That, from my perspective, is the main problem, is the veterancy scaling of the riflemen takes a very long time. And because they are a mid-range unit, they need received accuracy bonuses to help them close the gap. And right now, they don't have that. The received accuracy that they get is in line with every other line unit, which is not favorable for riflemen. So I don't really think this addresses the problem. It's an interesting choice. We'll see if some players make really good use of this. They might. I could be completely wrong. This could be a bad take from me. But I just don't think this addresses the issues that we're seeing with riflemen at the moment. Heavy barrels. So I think I should talk about this first, because otherwise this isn't going to make sense. So they are replacing the M4A1 76mm gun conversion in Mechanized Support Center with heavy barrels. So this 76mm gun conversion is now going into the tank depot is a default upgrade, which means you can use this ability. You can upgrade your M4s with any support center now instead of requiring the Mechanized Support Center. This is a great change and is going to give the US much better late game armor performance. The 76mm, I mean, they're not quite as good as like a like a Hellcat at like anti-tank capabilities, but they are going to scale much better against Axis late game armor. They're going to perform much better from a penetration perspective, and they are very lethal against infantry. So giving access to this across the board for the US, I think is a great change. It's going to open up a lot more build diversity and support center diversity in team games. So I'm excited to see this. I've been playing a lot of MSC with a lot of use of the M4A1 76mm, and now having the flexibility to use it on all of the support centers is, I think, an exciting change for me. So I'm stoked about it. Now, heavy barrels. This is a new upgrade in the Mechanized Support Center. It takes the positions of the previous M4A1 76mm gun conversion. Heavy barrels increases the range by 5 and additional rounds per burst by 25% on all vehicle-mounted machine guns, including upgraded machine gun mounts, such as the M2HB 50 cal or the M16 multiple gun motor carriage. Wow, that's a mouthful. What does this effectively mean? It means that machine guns now will perform significantly better across the American roster with this upgrade. Vehicle-mounted machine guns and up to and including the quad. The quad actually already has very high range. It has 45 range, which is higher than most other vehicles. And this will bump it up to 50, which is going to make it like super long range. So really, really interesting addition here to the American roster. And it's going to make those late game machine guns even more lethal. Especially the ones on the Shermans, which are already quite strong. This is going to make them even better. So I think really exciting for U.S. forces so far this patch, based on what I'm seeing. Quarter-ton truck. We have refreshed several units. Veterancy 3 ability bonuses to make them feel significant. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I think I've seen a Vet 3 Jeep once that I can think of in recent memory. And you guys know, I play a lot of this game. I think I've seen a Vet 3 Jeep maybe one time in the last like 6 months that I can think of. So that's cool, but like, I don't know how many people are going to see this upgrade, but that's really cool. This, receive the accuracy bonus. We love that. More durability, and it gives an additional 60 health. That's cool too. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the shared veterancy on the Jeep is going to make it scale better. Maybe like people are better at keeping these alive in team games. I don't know. But I don't see a lot of F3 Jeeps, but this is a cool distinction. I like this a lot. This is cool. M1 AT gun. Oh, what is this? Duration replaced with armor-piercing rounds causing crew injury criticals on vehicle-penetrating hits. What does this mean? Crew shock? Oh, that's what it is. It's probably crew shock. Interesting. Cool. So now the American M1 will cause crew shock once it hits Vet 3 with the AP rounds. Which makes sense because this ability is really expensive. It's 45 munitions to use this ability. It's not even guaranteed to penetrate. So I actually like this. This distinction is very interesting. And I think it's going to help the M1 scale really effectively. Now, M8 Greyhound. So the acceleration bonus was swapped to a plus 15% rotation rate. This is great for the Greyhound. I want to call out specifically, I think this acceleration bonus needs to be revisited across a lot of vehicles. Almost like, I don't know, I want to say all of them, but most of the vehicles in the game, since they did the unit distinction patch, the Vet 1 is an acceleration bonus that makes almost no difference from what I can tell. I don't really know why. Like, it just doesn't feel impactful as a bonus. So I think Vet 1 needs to be revisited across a lot of the vehicle base. Good to see it for the Greyhound. Hope to see it for the other vehicles as well. Chaffee, speed is being increased to improve its anti-vehicle flanking and pursuit role. This scares me because armored play is such a pain in the butt, and Seek and Destroy is so strong. I feel bad for this unit in a way, because it's like, I feel like this unit is now getting the short stick because of how oppressive armored battle group play was for USF for such a long time. And now, you know, we're not, like, this isn't gonna help it. I think we're gonna go back. Like, it's a small change. It seems small, but I think, like, when combined with armored battle group abilities like Seek and Destroy, it's gonna make this unit really oppressive again. And it's just really difficult for them to find a sweet spot for it when the abuse of armored battle group is so, you know, accessible to people using this. So I feel bad for you, Mr. Chaffee. I'm sorry you are the way that you are, but honestly, this could be easily fixed if they address armored battle group, which I don't think they do. No, they don't. Again, I mean, we'll talk about some notes that I had at the end. We'll get there. The Dozer fires a bunker buster round. This looked really busted to me when they did the preview. I'm a little afraid of it. It seems to me like you'll just be able to one-shot team weapons with this. I don't know how else, you know, you're gonna deal with this. If you're playing with like an AT gun against this Dozer, it just seems like you have to run away, because it seems to me like if you don't run away, you're guaranteed to lose it, because I don't see how you can pack up and get out of the radius of a satchel shell within 3.5 seconds. That's just not going to happen. So I'm a little concerned about this ability. I understand the sentiment. I think I would have rather seen like a satchel shell that just does super high damage to buildings. So you could basically like level a building in like one shot or two shots. Because the current bunker buster ability is just not very useful. It's not very good. I don't know if this was the right move, but you know, diversity, I don't know. We'll have to try it out and see how it feels. This seems really interesting to me. So they're reworking the Scott to differentiate it from other vehicles in the US roster. They're basically turning it into an SPG for the Americans, which should be pretty interesting. So they're reducing the auto attack range. Good change, I think. Great change, actually. A lot less oppressive to use in a general sense. But they're increasing the barrage range dramatically, which means you'll be able to hit AT guns, you'll be able to hit defensive positions with smoke, with barrages from way out of range. And this is going to cover a lot of the weakness of Armor Battle Group that previously existed, which was that they didn't have a great source of indirect fire. And now the Scott is going to operate within that role. Now, they did increase the barrage time, which is good. It's going to reduce the oppressiveness of this. But it's still, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to make, like, Armor Battle Group still already quite strong. I don't see how, you know, doing this is going to make that less appealing compared to the other battle groups. They didn't make any other changes to the battle group, which I think is, you know, I'm just going to stop talking. Let's get to the end. Then we'll talk about what I'm thinking that they missed. The Weasel. Okay, so the Weasel now has access to the handbrake ability. The variant towing the pack howitzer arrives to the battlefield at Bet 1. Great. Awesome. This is cool. All right, so pack howitzer's back in business. Vet 1 Weasel coming on the field from the jump. I actually really like that because usually it's very difficult to get to the Weasel to Vet 1 once you get to 1 CP because you've kind of missed your window to do a lot of your infantry fighting, and now you don't have to worry about that. So this was a fantastic change. I think this option will be much more popular now as a result. Really happy about this. This is good. Very good change. Okay. Veterancy 1, acceleration change to 25% rotation rate. Again, happy about removing the acceleration. Vet 3, what have we got here? Weapon drop cost replaced with self-repair ability always being active, even if the unit is moving and or in combat. I mean, I don't think anybody was asking for that, but okay, cool. All right, I'm excited about this. Howitzer changes. 105mm howitzer for the Americans. The auto fire reload has adjusted to be around 10 seconds with auto fire. Ammunition storage of Vet 3 now reduces the time needed to recharge the next auto fire shot. Cool. So, what this means is auto fire is going to be much more usable and scalable with the howitzer. And I think with the changes to indirect fire, this thing could be pretty scary on this patch. Especially with the auto fire. We'll have to see. I'm really looking forward to trying this out. I've been wanting to use the howitzers for a long time. In 2v2s recently, it's been kind of a meme unit, but I think actually this might be viable now, so we'll have to give it a shot. M3 assault carrier. Reckless assault is now part of the unit without requiring veterancy. What? Fortified positions is now available as a Vet 2 choice. Or Vet 1, Veterancy choice 2. Okay, I see. Instead of Reckless Assault. Fortified positions always has a cooldown when the exchangeable parts is used to convert half-track into an assault carrier. Okay, that's good. That prevents some abuse. But, dude, what? What? Why? I'm sorry, guys. I'm at a loss. So for those of you that don't know what Reckless Assault is, it's a 90% damage reduction on the half track when I believe it's at, I forget what the threshold is. It's like 80% health or 100% health. Basically what this means is that the first hit against the M3 does almost no damage. It does almost nothing. It does like a sliver of HP. It doesn't matter whether it's an AT gun shell, whether it's 88 shell, a Faust, Panzerschreck, doesn't matter. Reckless Assault gives 90% damage reduction to the first hit. So somebody in my chat said it has an energy shield. That's basically how it sounds like. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I've spoken that strongly of any of the changes thus far. This was a horrible idea. This was a terrible idea. I don't know whose idea this was, but I would like to ask them. Why? Why do we want to make an immortal M3 is such an early game unit and already so difficult to fight? Now you're going to make it be able to tank a shot of anything for free. This was a horrible idea. I can't say it. And the fact that now you can get access to fortified positions with it as well is just like, it's going to be that much more oppressive. I can't state enough how bad of an idea I think this was. I don't really think that the assault carrier needed anything. I thought, it was pretty nuanced unit. It had some specific use cases that were pretty good, but this is bad. This is a really bad idea. So hopefully I'm going to make a note of it and be like, hey guys, like this, this should probably be reverted. This is such a bad idea, but we'll see. We'll see how badly this gets abused in our games. All right, moving on to Wehrmacht. What time are we at here? Okay. actually just, I gotta go get some. Okay, here we go. Wehrmacht. So, starting with the Kettenkrad. Kettenkrad has also had its communication cable's vision range adjusted for the recent territory points change. It is slightly lower than before, but is compensated by no vision being provided by territory points to begin with. Right, so extra utility for the Kettenkrad that nobody else has, which is great. Let's see, points captured by the Kettenkrad via comm cables now have a UI indicator on the point to show it is benefiting from the increased vision. Comm cable's vision point increased from 7 to 12. Vet 1 acceleration bonus changed to 25% rotation rate. That's nice. Vet 3 allows the Kettenkrad to be camouflaged even when moving. What? Why? Okay. Well, I don't think this is a good idea. Because what this means is, especially with the territory point changes, this thing is just going to be able to zoom around the map and vacuum up territory points. And when it spots a threat, which it should easily be able to do, it will just be able to drive away and never be spotted. We swapped out one alien cloaking tech for another one, I guess you could say. Oh, that's something. Okay, Grenadiers. Grenadiers were a little too efficient when Wehrmacht was meant to rely more on advanced infantry squads or heavy machine guns to directly combat allied infantry in the later stages of the game. Grenadiers will now have the same upkeep as other main lines to reduce their efficiency. Increased recharge times on merge will also make it harder to replenish advanced squads with Grenadiers alone. So merge recharge time is being increased from 15 to 60, and the upkeep per pop is being increased from 1 to 1.5. So, wow. Wow. Grens are getting it bad this patch. Wow. Okay. Well, basically, I think what this means is, you will see less super Gren heavy builds, which is probably a good thing. We'll see less merge slavery, what is the term that I coined for when you basically blob like a bunch of Grenadiers around one really strong unit. But it was also kind of how this faction was coping with some of the infantry combat. So the Gren blobs are going to be less effective. You're going to see less economic bonuses from merge usage. And the emphasis is going to be more on like when to use merge optimally rather than just using it at every opportunity. Grenadiers, this is a pretty significant nerf to Grenadiers. We'll have to see how it feels. I'm not optimistic. I don't think this bodes well for their early game. And that early to mid game transition is going to be tough for them with the economy being nerfed and the merge being nerfed, especially with, you know, lots of free models going to US for casualty collection and all that jazz. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this means we're going to use more transfer orders. It's hard to say. Sniper. The Sniper's Vet 3 for the Wehrmacht was weak as it couldn't spot for itself, and its rate of fire bonus was not significant enough for ambush. We've changed it so that the ambush bonus is significantly higher, and the Sniper is able to be a spotter in both combat and out of combat scenarios. So Vet 3 bonus is changed to plus 10 vision and plus 50% fire. So it turns into basically a lone wolf at Vet 3, potentially. I mean, honestly, Sniper might be the play now for Wehrmacht with Grens getting nerfed so hard. I don't know. I think we might have to do some experimenting. But like I said, I hate snipers, so I'm not really excited about it. And I don't really want to do it. But it might be like the only way. We'll have to see. Panzer Grenadiers. So, these changes improve the scaling of Wehrmacht Panzer Grenadiers, making options like officer quarters a significant power spike and improving their performance in mid to late game scenarios. We want Wehrmacht advanced infantry to be capable of fighting upgraded allied infantry and be the Wehrmacht's primary frontline infantry unit as the game progresses. I like this. I think the PGs still feel weird to me. This doesn't address the identity crisis that I think they have, which is like, this is basically just an SMG unit. When I don't really think that it should be. I think it should be more geared to be a unit that you want to fight with at mid-range and in cover. And it's just not the optimal way to use them. So I don't really know how I feel about this. Significant buffs to their performance, man. Like, this extra received accuracy and weapon accuracy are going to make huge differences. These guys are going to be scary at Vet 3. Really scary. So, very interesting. Maybe will help combat and, like, offset the nerf to Grenadiers. We'll have to see. Jaeger Squad. Jaeger Squads have been adjusted to focus their role as ranged infantry that deal good damage but have lower health. Cool. Alright, so health reduced from 110 to 100. Manpower increased. Oof. G43 accuracy increased from 0.5 to 0.6, so they'll be much more accurate at long range. Scope G43 damage increased significantly. That's cool. Concealment ability changed to slowing fire, so no more cloak for Jaeger squads. Armor enjoyers rejoice. I mean, no more cloak Jaeger bobs that we have to worry about. I think that's great. I like looking at the stats. It scares me a little bit and makes me think that this was a really heavy-handed nerf to Jaegers. But I don't know exactly how these feel. They might be good. They might be good in combat, good enough that the 100 health is not that big of a problem. But damn, like, this is expensive for a 100, you know, what is this, 500 HP unit? Because it's 5 models of 100 HP. This is crazy expensive for a 500 HP unit. PG is a little bit more justified because they have 115 HP. But these guys, like, they're going to be extra squishy now. So unless their long range damage is crazy strong, then I think these guys are going to have an issue. So we'll have to see. I think I'm happy about the change in removing the concealment. I think that's a good thing. But I don't know how any of this stuff is going to feel. It's not really clear to me. It seems like they want them to be more lethal and less durable. That's obviously what they were aiming at. I think this is probably a good thing, but I just don't know. Like, I can't really tell by looking at the numbers how it feels. And so I'm in favor of this change because I do feel like the Jaegers have kind of experienced a bit of an identity crisis where, like, the regular G43s weren't really good at long range, and so you kind of wanted to use them like riflemen, and then it made, like, the scoped upgrade feel kind of weird because now they have, like, a mid to long range DPS profile, but not as good as something like Aussies. So a little weirdness happening here. I do think that the Shrek Jaegers are really going to struggle with this change. I don't know how on earth you're going to be able to use them effectively. Seems like, I think Tier 2 Wehrmacht is in trouble. Now that I think about this, I think that Tier 2 Wehrmacht is in big trouble. Because the cloak was a big crutch for being able to deal with vehicles, but now with the health being reduced on the Jaegers, with them being more expensive, and no longer having access to cloak, like, I don't know if they're going to be worth the investment. Someone in my chat said, like Zook squads, but no, not like Zook squads at all, because Zook squads are 100 manpower cheaper, and you don't have to pay for their bazookas. So no, I don't think that's comparable at all. I think this is probably too heavy-handed of a nerf, and I don't know if Shreks are going to be as usable with this change. Especially in light of all the other changes, at least that I looked at for US. We haven't even got to UK yet. So, Tier 3 upgrades, it looks like, so far. Stug G Assault Gun Point Blank Blast has been reworked to be a timed ability. It greatly reduces range to 15, but grants anti-infantry HE shells for 20 seconds. Weapon stats have been heavily adjusted to have less scatter but lower direct damage output. Cool. So you'll be able to go on an offensive spree with the HE ability on your Stug, but it has some counterplay in that while it's firing HE shells, I would imagine it's not going to be very effective against vehicles. This is a really interesting change for the Stug G. I'm really happy about this. I think it looks good. It will make the anti-infantry capabilities, more viable, less RNG based. I felt like point blank blast. Sometimes it would hit really hard. Sometimes it would do nothing. And now you'll be able to move around with it, which is nice. We love that. So yeah, great change for the Stug. Awesome. Martyr 3. Vet 1 acceleration bonus replaced with plus 15% weapon accuracy. This is really nice, actually. Now, I don't think it makes up for the fact that Jaeger's Shreks are going to be very difficult to use, but this is a very nice change because Martyrs really struggle with hitting light vehicles because they have a smaller target size. Martyrs are more tuned to be able to hit medium and heavy tanks, and so they would struggle with things like Chaffies, Greyhounds, Crusaders, smaller vehicles. They would miss a lot. And now with this change, hopefully this will reduce the number of instances where that's happening and just make it more likely than not to hit your opponent. Yeah, so this is a great change. Panzerschreck anti-tank weapon affects the Afrika Korps variant. We're adjusting the scatter to be more in line with other weapons, prevent situations where the rocket would fly at impossible angles from the launcher. The scatter will still be higher than other anti-tank weapons like the bazooka, especially at long range, but attack ground will be more reliable. This is good. This is really good because previously it was almost impossible to hit a target through smoke with a Panzerschreck. And hopefully now that's not going to be as much of an issue. So, good change. Happy about this. Luftwaffe relay. Honestly, I never see people use this. I think this is a bit of a meme, but maybe this will make it usable. We'll see. So can now recruit a targeted abandoned team weapon and emplacements for 50 manpower. Wonder what the radius on that is. Can be salvaged for 75% in manpower return, like non-upgraded fighting positions. This might make it viable. This might make it like an interesting, viable choice. So this is good. I think this is a good change. Fallschirmjägers. Interesting. Fallschirmjägers in a bit of a weird spot. I definitely agree. They feel very glass cannon-y, but all glass, no cannon. And this seems to address that. They seem to be sticking more cannon in the cannon and not changing the glass aspect. So I kind of like this. I'm going to experiment with these. They might be better. They might be more fun to use. They might scale better, which would be really nice. And no accuracy coming in from them until Vet 2. Interesting as well. So we'll have to see how this feels. But I think this was a good change, favorable for Fallschirmjägers, and they definitely needed it. I don't think they were really performing at the level that they ought to for their cost, especially. Black 36. Command point cost reduced from 2 to 1. This is good. Wesp self-propelled gun. So, we are making a change to certain mobile artillery, increasing vulnerability to flank attacks and counter battery fire from artillery, requiring players to use their mobility to avoid danger. In English, these Wesps, effectively, they will be able to be one-shot by AT guns, and 1 plus maybe a little machine gun damage from tanks. So, very fragile now. And I know a lot of artillery units also deal 160 damage, so that means a direct hit on one of these SPGs is probably going to kill it. So, this is an interesting idea. I think 160 health might be a little bit too punishing. I feel like I would have preferred to see like maybe 200, because that way you could take like some splash damage I feel like now you might just get hit by like 2 scatter shots, like not even direct hits, and still lose this anyways. But yeah, it seems to me like this might be too punishing to use on the SPG side. Maybe like 200 HP would have been better. You also have to take into consideration units like the Bishop that will have access to the Aussie over repair. Over repair is going to mitigate the effects of this for only the Bishop, which does not at all help the balance between the Bishop and the Wesp, which was a big problem. What this tells me is that I'm going to be more interested in probably building howitzer emplacements over the SPGs. That's generally what I'm getting from this. Moving along. Coastal Reserves. Coastal Reserves are gaining a new ability to synergize with the changes to bunkers. Make this unit effective at trading out with enemies from fortified defensive positions or garrisons. We've also slightly increased the power this unit gets when receiving veterancy, as it cannot be traded out for advanced infantry and is more combat orientated than the Grenadier. We'll see. Because I don't know if it's a bug, and it doesn't, unless they corrected it. We'll have to look at the bug notes later on. But you can transfer these guys. I've done it in a lot of my coastal games. I actually did it in one of my show matches against Hulk Smash recently. I converted a coastal squad into a Panzer Grenadier. So fun fact. But I don't know if you can still do that. We'll see. But okay, you know, coastal's gonna scale a lot better. They're already very cheap, very cost effective. They're gonna be much better economically than Grenadiers. So I think we'll see a lot of coastal play between the Grenadier nerfs and these coastal buffs, plus the changes to bunkers. Coastals might be like the turtle mode that is gonna keep Wehrmacht alive in the early game, and as they move kind of throughout. Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's it for Wehrmacht. I'm kind of surprised. I think I expected a little bit more, honestly. I mean, things that are top of mind for me, Tiger moving accuracy is a joke. Tiger needs more moving accuracy. All the other heavy tanks have 0.75 moving accuracy. Tiger's the only one that has 0.5. It misses some shots that are hilarious to miss. Just yesterday, day before, I had a game where it missed a shot against a Crusader that was right in front of, like right at the end of the barrel. It was right there. And the Tiger hit the ground in front of the Crusader. It was embarrassing. So I think the Tiger moving accuracy maybe could have used a little bit of help, I guess, against the smaller targets. I don't know. I feel like Tier 2 could have used some additional changes. It still feels like kind of a weird all-in. The Nebel, I think I would have liked to see some changes on, maybe like a cost reduction or something on it. Yeah, I don't know. Wehrmacht Mortar, STG Stoss, no changes to Collins, no changes to the 8-Rad for the Wehrmacht. I know the Daiquiri Rad was changed. Maybe it's for both. We'll see. We'll have to read and see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this was quite enough for the Wehrmacht, but overall not bad. Not bad, but not great. Let's move on to UKF. So, team weapon training now impacts emplacements. Health bonus provided to emplacements is now plus 120 health. Provides the same rate of fire bonus as regular team weapons. Wow. So that's a major bonus, major buff to emplacements for UKF. We might see a lot of use of the emplacements from Aussie Battle Group combined with team weapon training. It could be pretty scary. We'll have to see how it feels. Yeah, this is crazy. Also gives 120 health. I think the Vet 1 for most of them is also 120 health. So these things are going to be really, really beefy. And with the Australian Battle Group's ability, what is it called? Hold the Line. Going to have a lot of really nice synergy with all of this stuff. So we may see a lot heavier emplacement play from the British forces. And unfortunately for Axis, it seems like a lot of their artillery options are not going to cut it against these kinds of buffs. I mean, like, they have the Obiche, Obiche not super consistent, kind of like a big RNG cannon, not very consistent at hitting target. You've got the Wesp, which can be counter barraged and effectively one shot by anything else. What else have you got? The Canone for Dak. Like, is it going to be able to provide the consistent DPS that you need against these emplacements? I don't know. The Stuka? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough. They might be too strong, regardless. Nebels, like, Nebels aren't getting any kind of bonuses or buffs against these kinds of emplacements. It just seems really bad for Axis so far. Anyway, moving along. Company command post. Withdraw and refit now has 120-second ability recharge time when used. Thank God. This ability was so oppressive. I mean, it was it's one of the best parts of UKF. And I think I said recently, I felt like it needed a cooldown or a cost. Cooldown is good. Now you're not going to be able to just like swap out all of your tanks on the field at the same time for something else. You actually have to space them out properly. You're not going to see like mass Stuart migrations into heavier tanks, which is also nice. Now the player's going to have to space out the usage of refit, so that's probably a good thing. Now, you will still be able to combine this with the withdraw and refit ability from the armored battle group, as I understand it, for UKF. So you could kind of work around it in that way. But yeah, this is a good change. Good change. Okay. Vet 3 plus 10 ability range changed to plus 25% damage. Huh. Don't really know how that's better than ability range, but okay, go off, Relic. Decoy flares no longer share a cooldown with forward observer barrage. Didn't know that was the case anyway, so that's interesting. And then we've got the CWT-AA truck. Now deploys faster, allowing it to better respond to enemy incursions and reset sooner if it's forced to move. Reduce setup time from 3.5 to 2.5. Cool. So that'll make it much more accessible. Allow you to play much more reactively with it. Because at the moment, it's like you really got to like hunker down in a position for it to be able to take advantage of that range bonus. And now it's, not going to have as much of a problem. So, good to know. Cool. All right, moving along. Bishop self-propelled gun. So, we're making a change to certain mobile artillery, increasing vulnerability to flank attacks and counter battery fire from artillery, requiring players to use their mobility to avoid danger. We already knew this for the Wesp. Looks like it got some other nerfs, which it probably needed, right? So increase the reload speed. This is going to kind of counteract the difference made by training. And then the barrage recharge is going to be increased, from 45 to 50. This is good also because training was making it way too strong. Training was super, super strong. In reducing the cooldown. So this is going to help with that, but I don't know why it's only 5 seconds. That seems like it's hardly going to make a difference. I mean, with the training bonuses, it'll be like 3 seconds. So, interesting. Okay, cool. Moving along. Foot guard section now has access to the breach ability. Very nice. So now UKF has a unit that has access to breach. That's good. Move along to Matilda. Increase the frontal armor from 280 to 310. Ooh. I don't know about that. I felt like the Matilda was pretty much fine. Didn't really need extra armor as far as I could tell. I mean, it only really struggled with like Panthers, Tigers, like the things that you would expect it to struggle with from the front. So, I don't know. I guess fine. Like, but I don't really know if this was needed. Oh, I just got a question in my chat. Flamethrower sappers could always breach. No. Yeah, that's true. But why would you breach when you could just flame them from a distance? You know. I don't know. Maybe they'll still like it. Like maybe breach will be good on flamer sappers, assuming they still have it. We'll see. BL5. Oh my god, I'm so jazzed about this, you guys. All right. So the new veterancy ability, precision shot was changed to forward observer airburst support. BL5 emplacement will now fire 2 airburst shells at the location of the forward observer barrage ability from infantry sections, dingoes, and Gurkhas. Ability is affected by artillery saturation, similar damage output as off-map airburst. Dude, the way that you're going to be able to absolutely saturate areas with artillery with this battle group now is going to be insane. Like, you can use this, you can use forward observer artillery, you can use the BL5 base barrage, you can use like bishops with it. Like, I mean, consider using the airburst barrage with forward observer on the same position is just going to completely decimate any infantry and team weapon units in an area. So that's very exciting for Indian artillery enjoyers like myself. Very happy about this. Centaur. Centaur's late game utility is lacking, being a short-range anti-infantry vehicle. While it can deal good damage, it must compete with other mid-game vehicles in that tier, while still doing decent anti-infantry damage. To allow the Centaur to support allies in battle, a new ability has been added, enabling the Centaur to deal light anti-vehicle damage that causes a significant debuff on enemy vehicles. Well, RIP, Tigers, Panthers, and KTs. Toggle ability. Reduces accuracy and rate of fire by 30%. Deals 80 damage on penetration, 40 damage on deflection. And debuffs enemy vehicles on hit. Looks like it debuffs them even if it deflects, which is a lot. That's pretty dramatic. I'm not gonna lie. This looks kind of maybe a bit too good. Maybe a little bit too good from what I'm seeing here. But we'll have to feel it out, you know? Great, like, I like the idea of kind of a support tank in the late game, but honestly, when you stack that up on top of all the other changes in the game, I feel like this is going to make it too difficult for Axis to use their much more generally expensive vehicles. So yeah, this is a problem. Toggle ability, that's also a problem. You don't have to spend for this; it's free. Cool. Okay, 2-pounder. Target weak point now immediately ends upon firing a single shot while the ability is active. Is still a timed ability for 10 seconds, allowing a player to use it preemptively in anticipation for an attack. This is great. Good change. Why it never misses enemy vehicles when some of the other abilities do, I don't know. That's a little odd, I think. But this is much needed. This ability was way too strong and way too cheap on a joke of a unit. Like, you could use this to disable heavy tanks for extended periods of time, and it was horrible to play against. So this is a welcome change. Good change for the 2-pounder. Much more fair. Canadian shock section. Manpower costs reduced to 360. Reinforced costs reduced to 34. 2-inch mortar was buffed. I still don't, honestly, I just don't think the 2-inch mortar is worth it. Like, rifle grenades with incendiary munitions are just much better. You don't get a lot from the mortar barrage. It's a little, like, the scatter on it is pretty high. It's pretty easy to avoid. It doesn't deal a lot of direct damage like rifle grenades do. So I feel like that's a big part of the reason people aren't really using it. Yeah, you can use it from out of range of a machine gun and stuff like that. But I still just don't think this is a compelling reason to pick that option. So, yeah, we're gonna have to get some more changes, I think, to the to this unit in order to make this an appealing option. Personally, I would rather see like a weapon upgrade, like maybe some, I don't know, some like bar equivalent weapons like the Johnsons or Vickers K or something, maybe SMGs, you know, Sten guns, Thompson, something. I don't know. I just think I would like to see something different for this unit because I just don't think that the 2-inch is very compelling as an option. Finally, so UKF, what did we not touch? We didn't touch Crusaders, which I think is a little odd considering how strong they are on this most recent patch. Didn't touch infantry sections. Grenadiers got nerfed, so that imbalance is still going to be there pretty dramatically. Wehrmacht infantry, advanced infantry getting some buffs will probably help them against like sections, but like Aussies didn't get touched. I think Aussies are dramatically overpowered. I think they're way too strong for what they cost. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, like some good changes in here, but I think there were a lot of things that were left untouched that should have been touched or should have been changed. Yeah, just trying to think. Like, I would still like to see a combo side tech for Stuarts and Bishops. I would have liked to see the cost of the Stuart increased slightly and the tech cost reduced to make it more cost effective to go for one Stuart instead of kind of being forced to spam them. I've suggested this before, but like the Stuart currently costs 40 fuel. Most of the other light vehicles in its class cost 50, but it has the side tech requirement. So it basically encourages the player to spam the Stuart rather than only build one of them that you can refit later for like a higher amount of resources, like 50 fuel. And you can make that change easily without affecting the timing of the Stuart and get more value out of building one instead of feeling like you have to build multiple. So, yeah, I feel like Canadians could have used a little bit more of a change. Yeah. The Bishop changes, I feel like a bit of a meme outside of the health change. Like this stuff, honestly, these two changes are really the only difference. Like the only reason these changes are here is because of the training buffs. When you get team weapon, what is it, light vehicle training, I think, for Bishops, like they get some bonuses that really impact their reload speed and barrage time. And these are kind of meant to counteract that, but it doesn't seem like they do that much. So, I don't know. A little bit odd, in my opinion. Okay, moving on to DAC. So, Africa Corps, Team Weapons, League, Pack, 30, Flak 36. Team Weapons gain a variant of Combined Arms bonus that replaces the 10% accuracy with a 10% rate of fire. Only applies to the player... Sorry. Only applies if the player is Africa Corps. Obviously. Makes sense. Cool. So there's a team version of the... wait, was it just the Team Weapons? There's no MG34 included in here, which is interesting. But maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But yeah, a team weapon version of Combined Arms, sure. That's, you know, fine, I think. Kradschützen, Vet 3 now allows the binoculars ability to be active even when moving. I actually think that's fine. This is actually, I think, a good option for a Vet 3 on the Crad. It'll allow you to use it more as a scouting unit without putting it in danger by requiring it to be stationary. So I like this a lot. I think this is fair. This is a good change. Panzer Pioneer with the grenade launcher. Too easy. Yeah, okay, yeah. We're easily able to counter units like machine guns. So this is where we're at it. So the smoke ability has been removed on the grenade launcher for the Panzer Pioneer, which means that you will be able to properly suppress them with machine guns. They also won't have the benefit of being able to cloak out in the open via DAC Espionage Battle Group. So that cheese has been effectively cooked for DAC. We won't see that anymore, I don't think. I don't see that being very effective. Vet 3, health bonus increase from 20 to 25. Meh, like, so what? Not really, nothing to write home about. 5 more health for Vet 3. Meh. Panzer Grenadier Squad. Population reduced from 8 to 7. Okay. I don't know if this has any implications on upkeep, but yeah, it looks like okay. It actually does struggle for manpower as the game goes on. So maybe PGs would be more worthwhile. I still would have liked to see a combined arms or a performance rework for this unit. I'm a little disappointed that this is the only thing that PGs are getting. I don't think it's going to help them in the dynamic, especially against sections. So I still think PGs are not in a great place, but this will help their economy a bit, so maybe they'll be more effective for that reason. We'll see. Assault Grenadiers, Vet 3 ability cooldown recharge increase from 50 to 75%. Like, that doesn't make me excited to get my Askren squad to Vet 3, I'm not gonna lie. Like, ability cooldown recharge, who cares at Vet 3, right? If I get one grenade assault off, I don't really care if I can get another one 20 seconds later. Like, my opponent's gonna be much more prepared for it 20 seconds later, right? So, I would have liked to see something more interesting for their distinction. I'm assuming this is what this is meant to be. The Vet 3 distinction for Assault Grens. Maybe extra damage reduction on the disembark bonus would have been a good idea. I don't know. Extra movement speed, duration, off the top of my head would have been good. Movement speed might have been too much, but duration on disembark bonus might have been a good idea. This is not compelling to me for a Vet 3 option. Panzerjägers. Oh, okay. So, lots of changes coming to the Panzerjäger. Probably to help with the light vehicle changes and the changes coming to the Flak-Virling, which we'll talk about. So, population reduced. Manpower cost to reinforce reduced from 33 to 29. To build, they've been reduced from 275 to 240. So, Panzerjäger made a lot cheaper. This is a significant bonus or boost to their performance. Sorry, not to their performance, to their economy. So you'll be able to field more Panzerjägers, and it'll be less punishing to do so. This is overall probably a good thing. It's also going to make the half-track call-in for going for the, what's it called? The Assault Grenadiers much more appealing than the Panzerjäger as well. Because effectively you're going from same cost to paying more. Askrens with the 250 are actually cheaper. So, yeah, I think the Assault Grenadier and the anti-tank gun will be much more appealing options for the call-in, which is cool. I think that's good. Pack 38, veterancy speed bonus increase from 25 to 33%. So maybe, does that mean they move faster at Vet 3? If that's the case, I never knew that. That's so awkward. Maybe I've never had a Vet 3 pack. That's kind of funny. Okay, now on to the meat. So, the Flak-Virling half-track. Armor-piercing ammunition now only increased penetration by 50%. Slow debuff on target and reduction on blast radius removed. Armor-piercing ammunition cost reduced from 45 to 30 munitions. So, before, armor-piercing ammo increased penetration by much more. I don't know what the number was because they never quantified it, but like you could penetrate medium tanks with it. Now, I know that the armor penetration value on the Flak-Virling is quite low, which means with a penetration buff of only 50%, it's not going to effectively be able to kite or threaten vehicles like the Chaffee or the Stuart, which have higher armor values, and especially medium tanks, which maybe it shouldn't be able to, right? On top of that, you stack the slow on debuff and blast radius being removed. I think this unit is completely cooked. Now, I understand that for anybody who's listening to me talk right now, they're like, oh, but that, like, the flak is so annoying. It's the most annoying unit to fight. And I'm right there with you. I completely agree. But The reality is that, like, especially from a high level perspective, the faction is completely propped up on this unit. This unit is carrying the faction. Like, the rest of the faction is like dead weight compared to this unit. And now this unit is completely cooked against armor. It's not going to be able to fight any armor even half as effectively as it could before. I understand they're probably trying to incentivize players to go more for like Panzerjägers instead, which, by the way, they still haven't fixed the snare on the Panzerjäger, dude. It's a 35 munition snare that lasts 3 seconds. Relic, please, if you're listening, like, I don't know. I don't know who to ask for this, but like, guys, you gotta put the snare has to be more than 3 seconds. There's no other snare in the game that's only 3 seconds. Not a single other one is only 3 seconds. This is the only one, and it's 35 munitions. DAC needs an ability to help them lock down light vehicle spam. This is the unit to do it with, and it still hasn't been fixed. So I find that very disappointing, considering everything that we've talked about, and that the fact that they were making changes to Panzerjägers, like, great, but like, they didn't change the snare. Like, come on, dude, fix the snare, please. Yeah, so I'm really worried about this faction now, because I feel like this unit was carrying them insanely hard, and now I think this is going to be very easy to chase down and kill, which means that the rest of the roster is going to fold, because every unit, if you play DAC at a high level, you know, every unit is in support of keeping this thing alive so you can get to your mid or your late game units. Your mid game Stugs, your late game P3s, and now your early game is going to be brutal, because vehicles are just going to bully the heck out of you. So I'm a little concerned about, a little is an understatement, about what they've done to the flak. I don't think this was a good idea. Martyr, accuracy for the Martyr, that's great. Caro, okay, maybe we can be saved with the Caro. Let's see what it's got. Italian Vanguard changed to against the odds. When the car is near enemy medium and heavy tanks, it will fire 20% faster. Is this a meme? Like, it has a hard time penetrating those units, so I don't know how getting closer is gonna help. Yeah, 20 ranges, very short. That's not very far. You have to be like very close to them. That's short range. As far as the game is concerned. Yeah, what is that? More than half of engagement range for tanks. So yeah, you have to be pretty close. Now, it's getting some hull machine gun upgrades. So you got an upgrade you can buy for 35 munitions. Accuracy dramatically increased. Burst rate of fire increased. Moving accuracy increased. So going to be made much more effective against infantry. I think that's great. I don't know how this is going to feel. I haven't used this unit a lot recently. I've only used it a little bit. I feel like it's too expensive for what it does, but I also recognize that with, what is it, strength and steel or whatever that bonus is that reduces the cost, it kind of needs to be expensive for that reason. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how this feels, but interesting that they're touching this unit. I would have liked to see some changes to the L6s too. But anyway, we'll have to come back and see. 8-Rad. Okay, turret of the 8-Rad is being sped up to allow it to better track fast-moving targets while we've increased its long-range penetration. The unit deals a little bit more chip damage to other light vehicles when fighting from a distance. Great. Good news. Very good news for the 8-Rad. The biggest problem with the 8-Rad is that it lost against every other allied light vehicle. And maybe it should. I don't know. Maybe it should. But it felt to me like it should trade a little bit better. More like the Greyhound. I mean, the Greyhound obviously has a main cannon. It can miss at times. But I feel like the 8-Rad and the Greyhound should have this dance that reminds us of the 222 versus the T70 in COH3. And that just wasn't happening. You were just, basically you'd be brute forcing the 8-Rad down every time with the Greyhound. And that just doesn't feel good. You want that like dance element to it where there's a little bit of randomness, you know, just enough to keep the players on their toes. And so they kind of have to look at like how the engagement's going, like look at their back and forth, you know, determine the probability of how it's going. This is going to help with that. It doesn't seem like a lot. 3 penetration doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. It is going to make a difference in terms of your probability to penetrate some of those more lightly armored vehicles. And you can also stack this on top of some of the other penetration bonuses that the DAC have access to in armored support, as well as tungsten rounds. So these might be able to better deal with other allied light vehicles. And from me, what this looks like is I'm going to be probably experimenting from going from tier 1 instead rushing out an 8-Rad instead of a flak. This is what I'm going to be experimenting with. We'll see how it goes. But that's my inclination based on the changes that they made to both of these units. The Goliath, rotation rate increased from 55 to 75. This is to make it much more easy to maneuver on the battlefield. Dashing from cover to cover, you know, driving around corners, all that stuff is going to be much easier to do with the rotation rate. So I think this is going to make the Goliath much more usable. So I think this is a great change. Very good. Walking Stuka. All right, here we go. So we're making change to certain mobile artillery, increasing vulnerability to flank attacks and counter battery fire from artillery. We've adjusted the Stuka's creeping barrage to differentiate from the standard barrage. Creeping barrage will now cover a wider area, but rockets will have much less overlap, reducing raw damage to targets. Furthermore, because of the destructive payload, it can no longer double barrage, but fire the creeping barrage will lead to a much shorter cooldown as the player has to pay munitions to use the ability. Cool. This is pretty much exactly what I've been asking for. So when you pay for the Stuka Creeping Barrage, the recharge is 30 seconds rather than being available on a separate cooldown. I don't know what this means. It looks like basically they've spread it out so it's less effective at dealing damage in a line like it used to be. And they reduced the wind down, which I think, is this the time between shots or is this after firing maybe? I think this is after firing actually. So that means that you can move after firing more quickly, which is good because the health pool on it has been dramatically reduced. So overall good changes. Cool. I think this is good for the Stuka. I'm happy to see this. Oh shoot, did it again. Every time I click to the left or the right of the thing, it takes me out. Sorry, here we go. All right, now, battlefield espionage. We've got the 253 Funk Panzerwagen and Intel Radial Beacon Aura changes. Yes, this is the interesting stuff. So, now, noted it can be difficult for team weapons to benefit from the aura. Yeah, no surprise there, considering they can't take cover. Okay, so aura now grants cover-based camouflage that has 0-second delay before activating and remains for 4 seconds when leaving cover. The camouflage aura for the Funkwagen has increased from 30 to 50, and the Intel Beacon has increased from 50 to 70. So basically how this is going to look now is you can plant your beacons or keep your Funkwagen further back, but you have to move from cover to cover with your infantry to get the ambush bonus, which I think is good. Units no longer automatically hold fire. Hold fire ability given to infantry units that lack it upon unlocking the battle group. Cool. I don't know, actually. Is that what we want? Yeah, probably what we want. That's probably what we want. Okay, cool. And Intel Disruption Beacons. So, solely a tool meant to provide nearby friendlies camouflage. Reconnaissance will now require units to scout ahead to see what best ambush can be set in advance. They're reducing the manpower costs, which is great. No longer detects enemies in range, only provides the camouflage aura. Huh. Is this worth it for just that? I don't know. I kind of thought the intel component of the beacon was cool. But now it's gone. So I don't know. I guess maybe like that means you have to build a 254. Like I guess. But that I feel like that kind of takes away some of the appeal of going for this beacon. So okay, interesting. Siphon beacons were too difficult to use. They gave away their position by telling the enemies their point was being siphoned, and observant players would notice the change to their income. While it could be powerful in certain situations, it required these beacons to pay off very quickly, as they would inevitably be destroyed. We're changing the design to now only provide the owning player additional resources with a slower gain, as it no longer telegraphs the resources are being stolen. So siphoning reduced from 75 to 50%. No longer reduces the territory points income. Oh, okay. No longer places an indicator on the target's points stating it is being siphoned. No longer impacts capture or decapture speeds. So, they're basically changing the siphon beacon to be undetectable, unless just outright discovered. And rather than stealing resources from your opponent, you're just getting extra resources by planting these. I feel like that's going to make this much better than the intel beacon. Because you can place them anywhere. They're not going to give any indication unless your opponent happens to run into them. So, that's good. This is all good. Cool. So that's it for units. Units and battle groups, it seems like. No addressing damage reduction in this patch, which I'm a little disappointed by. I feel like damage reduction has gone too far, and there is probably too much of it at the moment. I think it needed to be dialed back quite a bit because of how much it had crept into other units, like a lot of units. So I want to talk about my thoughts. I'll talk about things generally, I think. And then I'll zero in on a couple things. Some system things from my perspective that have not been adjusted that need to be adjusted. The first one is machine guns. So I made a couple notes here. Let me see if I can pull it up on screen. Yeah, okay. So, machine guns need the same treatment as AT guns. They are far more rewarding to use currently when they're attack moved and used reactively rather than proactively. There is plenty of ways to make them more powerful after increasing the setup time to make them more punishing to flank. So you could give them an area of effect damage against clumped units. You could give them faster weapon traverse, suppression speed, something like that. But these units, these weapons are just like, they're so annoying to fight currently because everybody's just attack moving them around because that's the best way to use them. So that, my perspective, is a big problem. Damage resistance on early game units is the main offender, I think. Damage resistance is a good way to help a unit scale and survive throughout the game so that you're rewarded for preservation. But damage resistance in the early game, it makes it way too difficult to counter a lot of these units, like machine guns, Stosstroop and Collins. I would sooner see received accuracy bonus, so these units have some resistance, but not to everything universally, so they can still be countered with things like grenades or vehicle weapons. The damage resistance is creeping too much into the game. Grenade changes are great. I'm really, really happy with them overall. I do think that what I would like to see is to further incentivize players to use grenades from longer range is decrease the windup and travel time of grenades. And then in exchange, give the grenade a longer fuse. This is going to make grenades feel more responsive and snappier to use while giving players the same amount of time to react. Last thing I wanted to touch on was casemates. So casemate vehicles, if you don't know what that means, it's basically a vehicle that doesn't have a turret. It's got a fixed gun on top, so weapons like the Stug, the Martyr, the Archer, those kinds of units they are still proving very difficult to use. There is an issue with these units that makes it so that the vehicle does not have the ability to traverse the turret and rotate the chassis at the same time, which makes them feel horrible to use. We also have a lot of situations where like the firing arc feels slightly too narrow for some vehicles and it's difficult to read. If we had visibility on the casemate's firing arc when it's selected, like the Martyrs in Co-1, it would make it so much easier to use these units. Last thing is like AA and loiters. Personally, I'd like to see loiters get reworked into like some kind of multi-strafe ability rather than having the planes completely gutted for their anti-tank performance. Especially when you compare them to Overwatch Barrage, like from DAC, which wasn't touched, by the way. That ability is so busted. Now, dude, like Overwatch Barrage, you're going to be able to one-tap bishops. Like, it's... I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that didn't get thought about when they made some of these changes, or like things that got forgotten about. So yeah, I don't know. I'm bothered about that. So anyway, regarding airplanes, like I'd rather see the anti-aircraft gun performance be brought in line to properly deter aircraft or destroy them when in range than have these aircraft-based abilities get nerfed to the ground. So those are like the system changes. From a faction perspective, I mean, like US forces, armored battle group squeaks through another patch with no changes. I just think that's an absolute joke. Allied War Machine is way too strong. It should be mutually exclusive with the Easy 8. It should only apply to tier 4 vehicles. And we're going to go to another patch with US having lots of very powerful new armor options and no changes to armored battle group, which has been the strongest, one of the strongest battle groups for years. So I don't know, big missed opportunity there to balance US. No changes to the 1919 with the damage resistance, still going to be super oppressive. No changes to riflemen, which, you know, the bar change arguably I guess is a change for riflemen, but not really in my perspective. Doesn't deal with what they needed. I think they needed better performance on their veterancy. They needed lower veterancy requirements to be made more effective in larger games, because riflemen are hard to use right now. Barracks play does not feel good. And I think it's because of the performance of the unit, not because they don't have access to bars early enough. So this is a band-aid solution that doesn't solve the problem from my perspective. The support center changes are great. Really happy about those. Oh my god, I can't get over how horrible of an idea this is. This is such a bad idea. Overall, lots of good system changes. The nuance balance changes, I'm scratching my head. I feel like quite a few of them. Like the individual unit changes, a lot of them I'm kind of scratching my head. This does seem like a very allied favored patch, which, you know, that's a little concerning. I want balance. I want it to be 50-50. I want it to be fair and fun for both sides. I want the factions to feel different from each other. And it just seems like, you know, there was a lot of changes that are going to more heavily favor allies, frankly. That's just my opinion. Now, granted, all of this is just on paper. I haven't even played the game yet, so take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt, okay? Take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I feel like my track record of takes based on notes has been pretty consistently good. So my inclination is I'm really concerned about the state of DAC, especially with the nerfs to the flak. Wehrmacht, the Grenadier changes, like they're still going to be crutching on the same units that they were last patch, the Stug call-in, the Stoss call-in. I think Tier 3 is going to be much more viable than Tier 2 for Wehrmacht on this patch, potentially. Mostly because of how cooked Tier 2 got with the changes to Jaegers. But, yeah. And then, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to do with DAC now. Like, I'm going to have to experiment a lot to figure out what's going to work. So, We'll have to see. Quick skim over the bug fixes. So they fixed the issue where explosions that killed models and caused Gibbs did not give proper credit or experience points to units. This is huge for pretty much all artillery units. I feel like what's going to happen is the artillery units are going to scale up really, really quick. Yeah, I've got people asking me if they want to play games. Yeah, we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up here. Okay, Chaffee, Ultranite, vehicle pathing, sandbags are now destroyed by grenades. Construction previews no longer detect mines. Nothing else major here from what I can see. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. We're gonna leave it at that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what people think of this patch. This is, what is this gonna be? They're doing another major update with battle groups apparently in the fall. This is, what is it? Is this supposed to be the summer update? I think it is. So this might be like the main update that we're gonna get. We might get like a hotfix or something before the next major update. But this is the second bug fix. Oh, I'm sorry, Miguel. I miss something about the Chaffee. But I was like, it's not important. Oh my god! Oh my god, they fixed it! Oh my god! I can't believe I almost missed that. Oh my god, they fixed it, dude! I was just yapping about this. I should have read the bug fixes. Well, I retract everything that I said about casemates. For now. For now. Wow, dude. I can't believe I almost missed this. Guys. Yeah, no, the construction speed changes not being changed is crazy. I think also, like, they need to revisit things like wire cutting. Like, wire cutting, it takes me... in the time it takes me to cut down one wire, I can lay down 4. Like, that's a problem. You know? Just from a time investment perspective. That's a big problem. Anyway. Wow, I can't believe I almost missed this. This is a nugget for anybody who stayed in the video to the end. I think this is going to have major implications for the casemates. Oh my god, I don't know who fixed this at Relic, but I could kiss you. Like, I've been crying about this for so long. So, this is great. This is very good. Miguel, thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. He's in my chat. Great, cool. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. Thanks, nerds. Have a great evening, and well, evening whenever you're watching this. I don't know, but yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear what the community thinks of these patch notes. I'm optimistic about the direction. There are things where I'm scratching my head that they change, scratching my head that they didn't change, but it's continued work in progress. You know, onward and upward. Really excited about a lot of the tech changes, especially for US. I can't wait to play some games, so I'm gonna go do that now. See you, nerds.